Hi there! Well, today's video is going to be a review and demo of the Kat Von D Lock-It Foundation. This is $35 for 1 ounce of product. It's available in 17 shades and I am wearing the shade number 48 Light. I did purchase this at Sephora and I'd like to talk to you a little bit more today about my experience with it, what I feel are the pros and the cons, show you that quick demo, and then just sort of give you my overall thoughts on the product. So let's go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned in the opening, it is available in 17 shades. I'm wearing shade Light 48. It is fragrance-free, oil-free, and it is a matte full coverage foundation. So I should probably also go into a little bit about me and my skin type. I do have combination oily skin. I am oily right through my T-zone and pretty normal everywhere else. I do have a little bit of dryness around my mouth and especially the tip of my nose because of allergies. So I'm always blowing my nose. I do get a lot of flakiness around that area, and then I'm also a Retin-A user, so I will get a little bit of dryness and flakiness, usually right in this area where I'm typically more normal, but I will get that flakiness right here when I am using my Retin-A more often. So I wanted to try this foundation for a while, and it really kind of went to the bottom of my list. I didn't think about it, but then a sample came to me in the mail from Sephora with an order that I placed. It did have that number 48 Light in it, so that is the color I went ahead and purchased. I feel like it might be just a touch too dark for me. Maybe I would have bought the shade lighter if I'd been picking it out myself, but once I tried that sample, I feel like even though it might be just a touch too dark, it blended in really well, and I felt like as we were coming into the summertime, it was probably going to be a better color choice for me. So I've been really happy with it. I haven't had any issues with it blending in or anything like that, even at my jawline. I think it is a really good color match for me, but I am careful to blend it well. So let me start by talking to you about what I feel are the pros of this foundation. So first and foremost, I have to say it would be its amazing full coverage. I don't even use concealer when I'm wearing this foundation. The first time that I wore it, I started to put on my blush and my lipstick, and I realized, oh wait, I never went back and concealed any spots on my face. And then once I got a better look, I realized it's because I didn't need any. And that's really not typical for me with any other daily foundation that I wear. I always need to conceal certain spots on my face, but this does such a great job of covering any blemishes I have, any hyperpigmentation, any old scarring, or because I have fair skin, I tend to get like bluish veiny sort of marks, especially right around here, and it just covers everything. It really is amazing for that, and it doesn't take a lot of product. It doesn't really take much at all. So what I will do is put one very light layer around my face, and then any area that I feel needs a little extra attention or I do have spots, I'll just go back and add a little bit. And sometimes there's just enough product right here on the nozzle that I'll just touch that and go back and spot conceal. I do not think that this really settles into lines. However, I am going to get into later who I feel this foundation is best for. I don't know that if you had very dry skin or very deep lines, if this would be the right foundation for you. The area where I have the most lines on my face are right here in my forehead, and it does not settle into them, but I wouldn't say that exactly masks them either. It does have a matte finish, so it's not going to, reflect any light. It's not going to give you any distraction from the lines on your face, but I don't think it contributes to them or adds to them or makes them look worse in any way. Another great thing about this foundation is it does not require a lot of powder because it does have that matte finish on its own. I really just put a touch of setting powder right here where I'm going to get the oiliest, also right here on my face and then my chin. That's the areas where I would always build up oil throughout the day. I also always like a little bit of powder on my cheeks just because I feel like it makes my blush go on a little bit more easily. But with this foundation, I think you could easily get to the point where you've layered too much on your face, and I think at that point it could look a little heavy and cakey. So I like to just use a really light setting powder. I will show you that in the demonstration as well. I have not found that this foundation changes its appearance on my face throughout the day. So in other words, where I get really oily, I'm not noticing it getting cakey or separating or anything like that. To me, it has the same coverage from the beginning of the day toward the end of the day. And I'm actually going to insert a picture. I think I showed you this picture before. I wore this foundation and I took a picture of myself, I think it was about 6 or 8 hours later, and I had not done any touch-ups with this. Now, other days when I've worn this foundation, foundation, I have done a little bit of touching up with oil blotting sheets, but I've never gone back in with powder. It seems to do a little bit of oil absorption on its own. So really for me, just a blotting paper is really all that I need with this. So that all sounds really good. So now let me get into what I feel are the cons of the Lock-It foundation. So I really think that the biggest thing that stands out for me is that because this foundation is very full coverage, it is also very heavy. This is not going to be a foundation that you are going to forget you're wearing. It's not something that feels, to me, particularly natural. It doesn't feel lightweight. It is noticeable, and it is noticeable throughout the day, and I think more so at the end of the day. There have been times when I've been wearing this toward the end of the day, I really feel like I just want to get this off. So I kind of love it because of that full coverage, the full coverageness of it, but it is also not particularly comfortable. Now, it doesn't cause any itchiness or irritation. It's nothing like that, but this isn't one of those really comfortable foundations that you feel like it's a second skin. To me, it does feel very much like a heavy makeup on your skin. It also does have a little bit of like a tackiness to it. It doesn't stay oily or greasy or anything like that, but it does almost feel like just maybe like your skin just has a tiny bit of tackiness. I think that's the other reason that I like to put a little bit of powder where I'm going to apply blush. It just feels like it needs a little bit of buffer. It needs a little bit of something so that my blush won't skip as I'm applying that, if that makes sense. It just does have a little bit of something. So it sets, it's not going anywhere, but it never really, to me, feels completely like a powder finish or anything like that. So the other thing that I've noticed at the end of the day is this does require a little bit of work to remove. So think like a waterproof mascara. This is sort of the same principle. You do need to use a makeup remover. So I either use makeup cleansing towelettes or I will use a micellar cleansing water. I've got the Bioderma here. I was just trying to remind myself of the name. I have that here. I find that that works really well, but it will take me several pieces of cotton with that to remove it off of my face, or it will take the entire makeup cleansing towelette, both sides, to remove it. I would not recommend just going right to your cleanser at night to remove this. I really do think that you need to do a double cleanse. So you need to remove that makeup first and then cleanse your skin afterwards. One other drawback for me is in a daily foundation or something that I would want to wear most days, I would want an SPF, and this does not have that in it. Demo, I have clean skin and I've moisturized with my Philosophy Renewed Hope in a Jar. I have a little bit of CeraVe healing ointment on the tip of my nose where I get really dried out, and then I just have a little bit of lip balm on and my eye primer. So nothing else. As you can see, I do have some blemishes. I have a really bad one here. I always get them in this area from wearing reading glasses at night. It seems like I always break out right here on the sides of my nose, and then I have a couple up here as well. So and I did have one, I think it's kind of healing, so just kind of give you an idea of the coverage that you can expect from this. So what I like to do is pump a little bit out on the back of my hand and use that as a palette. I think it's best to work in small areas because this does dry really quickly, so you need to work fast, but it also is a product that needs to be blended well. So it's just better to work in small sections, and that way you can really focus on blending each area. So I'm just going to pump about one pump. A little bit goes a long way with this product despite it being thick. So I'm going to go ahead and just pump that out here on the back of my hand, and then I will just dab it on. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look in both a mirror and my viewfinder so I can do this. And then I am just using an IT Cosmetics brush. This is the Airbrush Foundation. I like the size of this. It kind of gets into areas on my face are a little harder to get to, like the sides of the nose and my chin and things like that. So this is one of my go-to foundation brushes. I also like the ones from, oh gosh, I'll put it here below. I don't know why I am just drawing a blank on that right now, but anyway, so just go ahead, and this is not really that hard to work with. I think it blends in pretty easily as long as you don't put a ton of product on at once and you just work in a small area like this. So, and then I still have enough to go ahead and go on this other side. And what I tend to do is go ahead and put a little bit on, and then I will add another layer if I need to, rather than globbing a whole bunch on at once. And this has such fantastic coverage that sometimes you just don't need a lot. So anyway, you can see, I think this has really good coverage. So you can kind of see here and here the coverage that this gives, and I do have a little bit of enough left here. I think I can go ahead and start doing my chin. And I do tend to break out down here as well. I guess that's hormonal acne. Right around my mouth, I would say, would be one of my areas of concern with that. And then I do make sure to bring this down on my neck as well. Of course, you don't want to have any harsh lines. And because I was always concerned that this might be just a touch too dark for me, I really, really want to focus on bringing that down here. So, as you can see, it's not really tough to work with. I mean, it blends in pretty easily as long as you just don't overdo it. But I do need another pump. I definitely don't have enough. So that's everything that I have in my hand. And it's going to be really hard for you to see this, but so where I have it pumped out here, you can kind of see it's already drying. Like, I can't really rub that off, and that's how it sets on your face, which is why you have to work really quickly. So just sort of keep that in mind. When I am done putting on my makeup, I actually have to take a little bit of makeup remover and get that off of the back of my hand. It really does set, which is part of the reason that it's so great, but it's also one of the reasons that I think some people can find it a little bit more difficult to work with. I have not tried this with a beauty blender. I just really like using a brush. To me, it's easier to sort of work a product like this into my pores, especially in this area here on my cheeks and on my forehead where I have larger pores. I just think using a brush for me is easier to do that and lets me get a little bit better detail. I should have mentioned in the beginning, I do have eye makeup on. Obviously, that's the only area of my face that I went ahead and did that. I have my eyebrows and my eyeshadow. And so I try to just work carefully around that. And I'm going to go back. I haven't really gotten any makeup on that area. But you can see it's really covering well on my forehead. And I do have discoloration on my cheeks as well. So, and I'll see if I can't get a tighter shot for you here in a minute too. I'm going to go back. I really did not get my nose well. And then I'll see if there's any areas that need an additional bit of coverage. Okay, so I think I'm going to go back. I am actually pretty happy with this coverage, but because I know I do have a little bit more discoloration here with blemishes, and usually here on the side of my face and right here, I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit. Not a lot, not even a full pump. I'm just talking about a tiny little bit. And this foundation is also great for spot concealing. So if you realize that you had a place that you may have normally put concealer, I will sometimes even just touch the tip of this here and then go back and conceal really quickly. So I just want to work on that area a tiny bit. This is a matte finish, but I don't find that it is so matte that my natural skin can't come through a little bit. I mean, it's definitely not going to give you any sort of dewy coverage or anything like that, but I still can see when I'm looking here in the mirror, I can still see my skin coming through. It's not so mask-like or anything like that. Because this foundation is full coverage, it does have a matte finish, and for me it really holds up well throughout the day. I don't like to add a lot of powder to this, but I will add just a touch of it through my T-zone where I do tend to get more oily. So what I like to use for this is either my Urban Decay Naked Ultra Definition Pressed Finishing Powder or my Hourglass Dim Light. Either one works really well. I think for today's video I'm just going to wear my Naked Light Pressed Powder. And again, just a little bit. This is a Bobbi Brown brush, and it's kind of pointed or tapered, so I like that because I can just get it exactly where I need it. So I'm just going to go in here and press around that area. I also kind of like it because it covers my cheekbones where I'm going to apply blush, and I think it helps my blush just go on a little bit more smoothly. And then I will do my nose, a bit on my chin, and then right through here where I would typically get oily throughout the day. And that's it. Really, really light. Now that I've gone over the pros and cons, let me talk to you a little bit about who I think this foundation would be good for and who I think should avoid it. So who would love this foundation? If you have young skin, if you have acne prone skin, if you have combination or oily skin, I think this would be a really good choice for you. If you have melasma, if you have a lot of hyperpigmentation, or just any spots, scarring, or anything like that that you really need to cover, this is going to be a great option for you. This is no doubt one of the most full coverage foundations I have ever used. And so if you're someone that has a skin concern like that and you really want a lot of coverage and you don't want to have to do a lot of concealing afterwards, this is going to be something that I think that you would really enjoy. People who I think might want to steer clear of this foundation, maybe sample it but not buy it right away, would be people with very dry skin. I don't find this foundation to be drying in any way, but it's not going to give you any kind of moisture. It's not going to give you a dewy finish. If you already have dry skin, I think that this might accentuate that to some extent. If you do have very deep wrinkles on your face, again, this is a very heavy foundation, so while I don't think it's going to do anything to make that worse, I do think that because of the matte nature of it, the heavy nature of it, it could accentuate that to some extent. The bottom line for me on the Kat Von D Lock It Foundation is that I love it. I think it's amazing. I love the full coverageness of it, but it is not going to be my go-to foundation. It is not going to replace my IT Cosmetics CC cream. It's not going to replace my Guerlain Lingerie Depot. I love the lightweight nature of these two products. I love that they have SPF in them and that they feel very comfortable and natural on my skin, but they do not have the coverage that the Lock It Foundation does. So for filming YouTube videos, for days when I need my foundation to really last from morning till late at night, if I'm going to be in photographs or anything like that, this is really going to be my go-to, but it is not going to replace my everyday skin covering product. So if you have acne prone skin, if you want a lot of coverage, this is something that you should really consider. If you've got very oily skin or combination skin that you want something that's really going to hold up throughout the day, this is a good option for you. But if you have dry skin or really deep set wrinkles in your face, you might like to try a different option. So I hope that you found this video helpful. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.